How much time have you wasted trying to make the right decision? Not a good one, not necessarily a brave one, just the one that you've deemed is right. Because somewhere along the way, we were taught that there is actually a correct, quote unquote, path. And if we choose wrong, we're going to mess everything up. So that leaves us overthinking and second guessing. And worst case scenario, that just leaves us stuck. But what if the problem isn't your indecision? What if the problem is the question that you've actually been asking yourself? Because today's conversation might completely change how you make decisions and honestly, how you live your life. Welcome back to the latest episode of the Write Your Own Story podcast. I'm your host, Betsy, and I'm so excited to be here with Megan Pando. Megan is a Shark Tank participant and founder of Maker Social. And today we're going to talk about choosing your life on purpose, even when it's messy. Megan, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to have another Ohio girly on the show. Megan is out of Columbus, and we have been able to chat a little bit before this episode, and you're just going to absolutely love her energy. So let me ask all of you listeners something. How much time have you wasted trying to make the right decision? Not a good one, not necessarily a brave one, just the one that you've deemed is right. Because somewhere along the way, we were taught that there is actually a correct, quote unquote, path. And if we choose wrong, we're going to mess everything up. So that leaves us overthinking and second guessing. And worst case scenario, that just leaves us stuck. But what if the problem isn't your indecision? What if the problem is the question that you've actually been asking yourself? Because today's conversation might completely change how you make decisions and honestly, how you live your life. Today, I'm sitting down with Megan, mom, founder of Maker Social, and someone who has very publicly taken risks, including stepping on this Shark Tank stage. In January of 2020, Megan opened Maker Social in Columbus, Ohio, its first DIY project bar with a full service bar of tasty cocktails and local beers. Yes, please. Guests can choose from a menu of over 30 different DIY crafts. Again, yes, please. And with the help of their crafty staff, tools, supplies, and some instructions, makers can create leather projects, wood home decor jewelry, and even pour concrete and so much more. But what I love the most about Megan isn't just what she built, it's how she thinks. Because she doesn't make decisions based on right or wrong anymore. She makes them based on the life she wants to live. And that shift changes everything. So if you've been sitting in decision, going back and forth, overthinking, trying to figure out the right move and feeling stuck, this episode is most definitely for you. Stay with me because by the end of this conversation, you're going to have a completely different way to think about decisions, one that helps you move forward without everything needing to feel certain first. And most importantly, it's going to help you start trusting yourself again. Oh, Megan, thank you so much for being here. If I and the listeners take in everything that we talk about today and all the wisdom that you have to share, what is one thing that could actually change in my life?
One thing that could actually change in your life. Well, I hope that my experiences and sharing my experiences help to allow people to make decisions and take risks that don't keep them awake at night. You know, I talk a lot about that. Like if something's waking you up at 3 a.m., don't do it. And there's
Ooh,
a reason, you know.
yeah. Oh my gosh.
Or, I mean, in a bad way. I mean, you know, think about it more. But if it's consistently waking you up at 3 a.m. with bad feelings, then, you know, your body's telling you something that it doesn't feel like a safe decision. And there's a lot of decisions I've avoided that way. And I know that my life would be different in in a bad way if I would have taken those leaps, you know.
You've just given everyone permission to go back to bed. And
Yeah.
and yes, I'm being like a little flippant, but truly like it gives people the permission to just put it down and to know that if you keep waking up about it at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's either out of your control or your body is telling that it's not serving you. I think that's
Mhm.
amazing. I'm going to in the morning roll over. I can fall asleep like the best of them. All us women are exhausted at the end of the day, but it's the 4 o'clock where I'm like, good morning. This is not morning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Oh my God, I love that perspective. That's incredible. I think every woman was just like, yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Can we start off? Can we talk about Shark Tank? I'm literally so obsessed. Okay. So can you tell us, like, how did you even find yourself on Shark Tank? What was it like?
Well, Shark Tank, they hold auditions each year for the next season, and they
Yeah.
hold these auditions in cities all over the US. The one that I went to was in Philadelphia, and there's about 40,000 or 50,000 people that audition each year,
Oh
and
my
only
gosh.
about 100 make it to the final round. And the reason that I auditioned wasn't even initially to get onto Shark Tank. I was in a really low point in life. I was in a rut. Nothing was working out when it came to scaling the business. And
Hmm.
I was just living in sort of a state of victimhood, like, woe is me. I can't figure this out. There's no way I'm ever going to get the financing I need or the real estate that I need. And I was feeling sorry for myself, and I knew that I had to make a decision to do something that would like bring my confidence back up and give me life again. And
Yeah.
so I saw these auditions for Shark Tank, and I was thinking, and I saw some videos of previous auditions of people like all coming together, 10,000 people in one city in a casino or convention center, and they're all talking about their businesses and practicing their pitches. And I was like,
Yeah.
I want that. I want to meet 10,000 entrepreneurs, and I want to pitch in front of a casting crew that intimidates me, and I want to do something scary. And then I'm going to leave feeling better about myself. So I made that decision thinking, what can I do to bring myself out of this rut and bring myself more confidence? And that is literally why I auditioned for Shark Tank. I just accidentally happened to make it. And so then I'm like, okay, now I have another decision to make. What's how am I going to prepare myself for any outcome in the world going into the tank? This could go absolutely terribly. So how am I going to emotionally prepare myself for that and be ready for that? Be ready to be ripped to shreds by sharks.
Oh
So
my
there was
God.
a lot of preparation to that. But when I accidentally, made it through auditions and everything, then yeah, I'm stepping into this whole new world. And now I have, I had a week to prepare before flying out there from the moment I knew I would be filming. And so I had to use flashcards and memorize all my numbers and prepare for every question. And the business had been open for almost 6 years. And so that's 5 years of financials and
Oh
five
my
years
God.
of storytelling and 5 years of employment history, all of it. I had to memorize so much. But yeah, I think the toughest part was emotionally preparing for any outcome.
What an incredible, I have so many things to say about this. One, I love the fact that you were like, you recognized, you could kind of step outside of your life and recognize, like, I'm in a bad pattern. I'm in victimhood. I am so stuck. I am so buried. I can relate to that so much. And I really think all of our listeners can too, whether it be business related or just life related. One of my favorite expressions is you haven't been buried, you've been planted. And
Mm,
like, I say that to myself. I run into this often, like I would say twice a year, if not more, where I'm like, I just feel like I am so like nothing's working out. And so I
mm,
love that instead of giving up, instead of staying in victimhood, you knew that you needed to shake yourself up. And I
mm,
think one of the other things that I've really learned through the process of the show and my own entrepreneurial journey and just life is that confidence does not come first. You have to take action to find confidence. So I love that you were so wise to be like, you know what? I've got to shake things up. I've got to change my environment. I've got to connect with like minded people. I have to push myself and like
mm,
also really reconnect with your business in a new way
yeah.
in order to find the confidence that you knew you needed. So like, I think that is just so insightful. And I feels really ahead of the curve because I think
Mhm,
so many of us just kind of get stuck, rightfully so.
mhm.
Um, was the audition process really different from the actual live experience?
Yes, yeah, it definitely was. I mean, it was a lot more casual to audition, but you only get 60 seconds to pitch in an audition. And
Mm.
then I think that the pitch to the Sharks when you're filming is about 90 seconds, maybe.
Oh my
Um,
God.
but you do write it yourself. There's producers that will help you along the way, and they
Yeah.
were all really wonderful. But you write your pitch yourself, and it's all about um, your personality, what you put into the pitch. You're telling your brand story and your life story. All of it is like the perfect combination of making great TV and inspiring the next generations who's watching it.
I love that. As I mentioned before we started recording, my kids were so stoked that I was talking to someone who's been on Shark Tank because it really does inspire the next generation. I love that. The other thing that you had mentioned was like preparing all the numbers, the financials, the scenarios, the 5 years, 6 years of back history. Like, I think you have 90 seconds. Like anyone can do an elevator pitch without being asked questions, but for the sake of, you know, vetting their investment as well as making great television, they ask the hardest questions.
Yeah.
I can only imagine how intimidating that was to prepare, let alone just making sure that you're delivering the 90 seconds of material that you've prepared. And then you have to be dynamic after that. Like that sounds so overwhelming.
Oh my gosh, it was. Yeah. And you have to be dynamic, but also remember that there's cameras. And so,
Totally.
your facial expressions are being watched. Like you can see some people on Shark Tank like look around like uncertain of themselves. And I'm like, okay, I've got to, even when I'm uncertain, try to look certain. And yeah, there's so much to think about. But after a while, and it is about 45 minutes to an hour long of a conversation. They
Wow.
cut it down to be like a 10 or 15-minute episode, but the conversation was much longer. So you do feel like you kind of become friends if it goes well, I'm sure. I don't
Yeah.
know how it would be if it didn't go well, but yeah, they became human after a while.
They probably know their TV, like their soundbite moments. And then I'm sure they have so much compassion. It sounds like the producers are really helpful. Did you get that environment that you were looking for where everyone was kind of like inspiring and rooting for each other and supporting each other? Or was it kind of cutthroat?
Oh, totally. Yeah, the entrepreneurs that I met along the way it was so awesome. We actually showed up there to wait in line at like 5 a.m. And I don't think that it was my turn until 4 or 5 p.m. So it was
Oh
about
my God.
12 hours of like waiting in line with all the entrepreneurs and practicing our pitches. Some of them had auditioned multiple times throughout the years. Some of them, had TikTok famous products, and
Mm.
some of them didn't have a business yet. They just had an idea and a prototype.
Yeah.
So it was, yeah, it was just really cool. And everybody was from all over the place, Florida, Texas. I mean, even though this was like the Midwest Philadelphia audition, there were people from all different states.
Oh, that's really cool. I
Mhm.
think, as humans, we are meant to be in community and like there's nothing better than everyone rooting for everyone. It's so easy to forget that there is plenty to go around for everyone.
Mhm.
But I love that, and this is like everyone's quote unquote big break. And yet there was still humanity and compassion. That is a good feeling for the world. Let's
Yeah.
go with it. We need stories like this. Okay, so you're on TV. Can you tell us how it went?
Yeah, well, you only get one shot, so you step into the tank and there's no retakes or anything like that. So walking through, you know, was probably the biggest adrenaline rush of my life. And then there's
Totally.
about 60 seconds of complete silence. And the producers tell you this as soon as you step onto the carpet, the Shark Tank rug, it's like a Persian rug. You step and you stop there, and
Mhm.
then they tell you you have to wait about 60 seconds while they get all the cameras ready. And then the executive producer will say, begin. So you have to wait until you hear the word begin.
Oh my God, I have goosebumps.
And I knew that 60 seconds would be so nerve-wracking, and it would feel like 10 minutes because you're staring at the sharks for the first time. They don't know
Mhm.
anything about you or your business. They're just looking at you. So, what's your face look like? Are you warm and welcoming? What story are you telling? And are we vibing already? Are we not vibing?
Yeah.
So the night before I was so nervous, but I told myself in that 60 seconds to just be proud of myself and
Oh,
enjoy those 60 seconds. So that was really magical and almost like a spiritual experience. And then
yeah.
once it began, I think that they could tell that I was a little more humble than some entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurs that go out there and they're just like overly cocky about their businesses and their ideas and too protective and too greedy. Those are the ones that they tend to destroy in the
Yeah.
tank. And so I
Totally.
think that they could see that I genuinely had worked really hard to build a business that was good for my community, and that I wanted to scale it to bring that goodness to other communities too. And so I appreciate that they could tell, and that they appreciated that. And so I did feel like they were kind to me the whole time, and there were some really tough questions, but I did well, and ended up getting a deal with Kevin O'Leary, and he was the shark that I definitely had in mind, just because he has scaled similar businesses to mine and kind of knows that brick and mortar entertainment industry. So, so yeah, the other sharks, I think, they had backed out because, for one, I only have one unit. So it's going to take quite a few years to get not just their money back, but an actual return. And then also, the other thing was that they were not all about franchising, and they were nervous about the customer service remaining, consistent throughout all of the locations, which is going to be like the toughest part is, when I'm the face and the heart of the business,
Yeah,
how do you make sure that that customer service is maintained throughout all of the cities that we open in? So,
totally. Those are
yes,
great questions to carry with you as you continue to build and scale.
I
Yeah.
am grateful that it didn't go through, just personally. That's all a part of writing our own story too, and like I
Uh-huh.
said, I was emotionally prepared for any outcome, even
Hmm.
that one. And then I was like, all right, here we go. That was a great
Yep.
commercial and insanely amazing experience.
Yeah. A
So,
100%.
yeah.
Um, how do you think? Well, okay. One other question I had was like, do the Sharks have any? Do they get briefed at all, or is like that when the producer or executive director says begin? Is this like the first they're hearing of you?
The absolute first. They don't have
Wow,
any
that's
idea.
yeah,
Yeah.
no pressure, right? Jeez, Pete's. How do you
No.
feel that like not just even going through the experience of prepping and doing the hard pitch and answering the hard questions, how do you feel just like the totality of the experience changed you as a person?
Hmm. I love that question. Man, those 60 seconds that were such a spiritual experience. I think, you know, I had told myself during that 60 seconds of silence, just take it all in and remember how hard you worked for this moment. You made it. Like, this is amazing. And so I start to, these memories flash in front of my eyes of having my son right before COVID, starting the business at the exact same time,
Oh my
and how
God.
hard it was when COVID started, and just all of the hardships like are flashing in front of my eyes. And it's like, now here I am. I made it on Shark Tank. I'm so proud of myself. But then I'm looking at these sharks and they suddenly become human. I can see the wrinkles in their clothes and the texture on their skin, and they're just humans and they're off of their pedestals. And then for some reason, I have this total shift in my mindset and my attitude of like, wait, it actually doesn't matter what anyone thinks of my business. And I feel like in that moment, God Himself had actually said to me, stop letting the world define success and stop letting other people dictate when you get to be proud of yourself. You shouldn't have to be in this Shark Tank on this carpet to be proud of yourself. And and I just sorry, that's like the first time I said that out loud.
Oh my God, I'm so honored.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um
yes.
and it was like I just felt like God had said, why did I have to bring you all the way to the Shark Tank just to tell you this, to be proud of yourself, and all of your hard work? So it was like a life changing moment. And then all of that's going through my head, and it was like just this download of understanding success is my story. I get to decide what success is, and success is the footprint that you leave. It's the legacy that you leave. It's not scaling your business, just like it's not the perfect marriage, the perfect have kids right when you're supposed to have kids, and join the corporate life when you're supposed to join the corporate life. Like, we have these paths that we think are success. We also think, if I have a small business, I've got to scale it, and that's what success is. And so in that moment, I finally understood what success is to me. And then I heard begin. And I'm like, hi, sharks. Just had the craziest, like, understanding, mindset shift of my life. But then going into it, it was so cool. I can't even explain it, but it definitely was life changing in a completely different way than I even expected.
You have just said what every woman so desperately needs to hear. And I love the part where you were like, God was like, did we really have to go all the way to here on the carpet? But it is, that is the beauty of the universe, is that it will keep showing you and telling you until you're ready to receive it. And if that means in front of cameras, in front of sharks, then so be it. Because I mean, talk about like the quietest, stillest moment where you had prepared yourself to tune in, and like, what a truly life changing experience, regardless of the outcome. And that is the most beautiful example of what it means to be a human and to live life. I
Mhm.
so appreciate you saying that success metrics are sort of arbitrarily given to us and we don't know any better because that's
Yeah,
what everybody's doing. And then you
yeah,
get this incredible download to be like, that is not, you don't have to define success that way.
yeah,
And, I what a blessing. And
yeah,
what a blessing for you to experience, and what a blessing to be able to share with all of those who are listening. Because I think so many people are feeling less than and not able to feel proud of themselves because they haven't met that arbitrary milestone. They start this show and they're like, this smart, talented, beautiful woman is got this incredible store and is on Shark Tank and all these things. What am I doing? But for you to be able to say to her, like, success, you get to define what success is
yeah.
such an important message.
Yeah, totally, Betsy. And to your point of like preparing for that moment too, like that goes to show how valuable it is when we just shut our brains up so that we
Uh-huh.
can, allow for like this kind of awakening and understanding. It doesn't happen until we can control our thoughts and our anxieties and quiet our brains in order to like allow that understanding to come in.
I saw something probably on TikTok, so it is obviously true, but I found it really helpful where it was like, if you hear these voices in your head and they are continuous questions, that's anxiety. If they are
Mm.
statements, that's your knowing. And I
Oh, I
was
love
like,
that.
right. I was like, thank you, TikTok. I'm like, I feel so much better now because it's so hard to know. Again, going back to what I was saying in the introduction and the insight that you had shared and sort of prepping for this show, is that we get so caught up in what is the right decision, what is the correct decision, because if I don't make this right decision, or if this experience doesn't go quote unquote the right way, then I've messed up, I've ruined something, I'm going to lose opportunity, something bad is going to happen. Where
Mhm.
truly, like, all you can do is make the next decision the best decision that you could make it be. Like, I think that that's so important to take that pressure off. So you had
Mhm.
mentioned sort of where you were in your life and how you were feeling about yourself before Shark Tank. Like, what can you expand a little bit more on what victimhood felt like and how you were going about your business and operating and living your family life, and like what those sort of mental spaces felt like and decision making felt like?
Yeah, totally. I think for some of us who are sort of external processors and have to say things out loud, uh,
Yeah.
especially to other people, we can easily identify when we're in victimhood because we want to tell people all of the bad things that are happening. And it's a strange feeling. It's not that we really are like, I need attention, I need people to feel sorry for me, but it's like, I just need to feel heard and I need someone to be like, oh, I understand. I've had this experience, or it's going to be okay, or maybe we're seeking comfort. But for me, I start to realize if I'm in victimhood because I am telling a lot of people, oh, I was dealing with this last week and then the week before dealing with this, and I just feel like I can't catch a break, man. It's that kind of and it will creep in, but then when it becomes a daily thing, that's when it's like actually a state of mind that we are stuck in. Instead of it just being a bad day, it's a bad month, and then it's a bad quarter, and then it's a bad year. And so I think for me, I was just talking about everything and marinating in all of the struggles instead of allowing the struggles to happen and just pass, and then looking at the future instead of looking at the past. And And I think I realized that the pattern, what was causing that pattern for me, was being attached to specific outcomes. And so now, when there's something big that's about to happen, I think about all of the outcomes and I will not attach to any of them, because if we can lose everything tomorrow, we're not even guaranteed life tomorrow, you know?
True.
So it's just, it's really, really hard to do that, but to detach from an outcome and not fantasize about your future with a specific outcome, that's where it gets to be unhealthy. When it
Yes.
doesn't work out, we spiral.
Oh, I love that. So
Mhm.
if you like, I'm trying to think of like a personal example where, I can think of a business example for sure. Like if we are working on the next product or the next thing and you're putting your heart and soul into it and blood, sweat, and tears, and you need the financial gain in order to keep operating. How are
Mhm.
you able, can you walk us through like, okay, here are the scenarios for how it could go, and here's how I've detached from them?
Yeah, yeah. Um,
I mean, just loosely, because I'm like, I think about like this could take off. This could stall for 6 months and finally take off. This could just be another flop. This could be, it's hard not to. Maybe
yeah.
I didn't do this quite right. I should have tried harder here.
Yeah. Well, I think when I think about all of the different avenues, I will step back and look at, you know, what the one that I want the most, that's obviously the one that I want to get attached to. So, yes,
Yeah.
this will work out. This bank loan that I want will work out, or this real estate property that I want will work out. And then I think, are there decisions I'm making right now that could hold me back from another route in order to hopefully move me closer to that one? So maybe, maybe it's holding back on hiring a person because I want this specific deal to work out. And I know that I shouldn't hire that for that job yet until that works out. Well, if it doesn't work out, then I'm stuck and I didn't hire that person, so
Yeah.
that's kind of a loose example of like, am I making any decisions that could affect me negatively if it doesn't work out? Because that's what it means to put the eggs in the basket. I'm putting the eggs in
Yes.
the basket. I'm making decisions in hopes that this path will work. But then if it doesn't work, I lose the eggs.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, just detaching from a specific outcome means not making decisions based on what you hope will happen, but instead
Oh,
making decisions like it. And that's so hard. It
yes.
really is.
No, but I mean, that is absolutely brilliant advice. I think it is so one of the things that as we think about the concept of like writing our own story and like what is our next chapter, and especially I find, because I've certainly sat in victimhood as well, when things are hard or you feel stuck, you feel like it'll all be fine once x external factor works out. Like it'll
Mhm.
all be fine once I get the bank loan, it'll all be fine once I get the deal on Shark Tank, it'll all be fine, I don't know, once I find someone to fall in love with. Like, I don't know, that's the silliest example, but like, you attach to these sort of external outcomes. And I've never thought about the check and balance to be like, okay, but am I making decisions waiting, not living the life that I need to live in the present because
Mhm.
I'm hoping that that will go out? Like, I always like to check in with myself and remind myself that no matter the outcome, I'm going to be just fine,
Yeah,
no
totally.
matter. And sometimes that feels hard to believe, but life has a way of showing you then if you
Yeah.
look back at the evidence, no matter what has happened, you've landed on your feet and you've been just fine. But I love the idea of even like scaling back and taking steps to be like, okay, am I so attached to that
Mhm.
that I'm not actually living in the present? And I think when I think about like, I love helping people in the moment of like, okay, what's next? Like, I'm stuck or life has fallen apart or I'm stuck in the job that I don't want, or just kind of like those pivotal moments. If
Mhm.
your happiness or your success is tied to something that doesn't have to do with you intrinsically, like you can't start writing. You have
Yeah.
to let all of that go.
Amen. Totally. Yeah.
Gosh, this is like the best conversation. I'm just
I
all
know.
single on this couch. I'm loving this so much.
I
So
know.
speaking of that, like that now what moment, do you have any, was it either, I mean, I can kind of understand the now what moment and like I like that they happen so frequently in our lives. Like, I think we need to name and own that. Like, you know, you
Mm,
are stuck in victimhood. You're feeling like nothing is really working out the way you wanted to in the business. You've been grinding for 6 years. Now what? You're like, well, I'm going on Shark Tank because I need to shake up myself.
mm,
But like, then you come out of Shark Tank, you've had this incredible download. You've,
mm.
you know, experienced this incredible experience in all of its totality. Did you have a now what moment after that?
I did, yeah, especially with this new understanding of, scaling my business is what I want it to be and what I want it to look like, and it can be slow too. So I think
Mm,
the next now what sort of um, plan was like, okay, now I'm not going to run 100 miles an hour towards finding my second location. I'm going to take a walk. And
mm,
step by step, I'm going to figure out what the next move is. And when something feels right, then I can pick up my pace. But until then, I need to like walk. And so metaphorically, it's just, it was now what I'm just going to walk instead of run. And it was so freeing because I do want to scale my business. I do want it to be big. I want to go to other cities. But do I have a huge exit in mind anymore? Absolutely not. And I'm not going to even answer that question next time somebody asks me what my exit is or what my big, hairy, audacious goal is. My goal is to walk and to enjoy the walk. And whenever I feel like a risk feels good and fun, I'm gonna take it. And when it doesn't feel good and fun and it wakes me up at 3 a.m., I'm gonna go back to sleep. And that's gonna be awesome.
yeah, I literally have full body chills. This it's incredible though, because you know, as opposed to being like, I I'm going to take this risk because I see this outcome that can come from it. You've decided that your decision making parameters are how it makes you feel. And does it fuel your energy? I love the concept too of like, you've just come out of this huge TV show, national platform. I can only imagine the rush that that whole experience was. And you have decided to slow down and to walk so that you can really like collect your inputs and check in with yourself. Another one of my new favorite sayings is the fastest way to get somewhere is slowly.
Mm,
And I think to your point, it lets you enjoy the ride. It
mhm.
lets you check in to be like, do I like this? Do I want to take a left? Do I want to take a right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it reminds me, this is a bit of a tangent, but those are my favorite. When I first got divorced and I felt like the rug got completely pulled out from under me, and like I really, one of the things that I struggled with the most was I no longer trusted myself. I felt
Mhm,
completely disconnected from my intuition.
mhm,
Um, and my therapist used to have me go on intuitive drives where she was like, you know, grab a coffee or a tea, hop in the car, put on your music, and go drive around with nowhere to be and just keep making the next turns. And it was so wild because at first I was like, I'm going to make the wrong turn. I'm going to get lost. I'm going to this. But I'm like, okay, you always have your map, like your GPS. You'll be fine. You'll find your way back home. But I would get to these stop signs and have this huge tension in my body, be like, do I turn left? Do I turn right? Like, do I go straight? And it was just this unraveling of just make the turn and you'll
mhm,
figure it out and you never know where it's going to bring you and you can always find your way back home. You have a map, girl. Like,
mhm.
but it was just this incredible experience of, like you're saying, to be able to just walk, take in what's around you, check in for what you want to do next. Of course, you know, like what you hope for the business, but it's all about enjoying the ride.
Absolutely, yeah. And I love that your therapist had you do that practice, especially after divorce, because I think after big moments like divorce or anything being pulled from our lives, if we close a business or if some huge venture sort of fails, the next step I feel like is to find yourself before that experience, find
Yeah.
out who Betsy was before, because
Mm,
somewhere along the line, you made sacrifices or accommodations or changed and lost
mhm.
your trust for yourself. And so it's like getting in touch with your childhood self again and who you really are at your core. So I love that. That's so cool.
I so appreciate you saying that because it's true. And like we were saying, that makes me think of when you attach to the outcomes. Like I felt so much shame that my marriage failed. Like I was a failure where really I was just a human having a human experience. And so I love the concept of like detaching from the outcome of whatever happens in your life to know that
Mhm.
you're doing your best and to reconnect with who you are,
Yeah.
and how you want to live. Oh, this is seriously just my favorite. So then you have kind of like taken this concept of like, I'm going to get there slowly. I'm going to walk. I'm going to make these decisions. And that's definitely in business. How is that translated into just kind of like your everyday way of being? And like, has sort of the fear and the victimhood and the obsession of making the right decision sort of peeled away? Does it ever creep back in? Like, how does it feel to be living in this new sort of way of existing?
Mm, yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I think that the more, we're creatures of habit. So the more that we
Mhm.
practice anything, the
Yeah.
more we're going to do it in our everyday life. And so
Yeah.
practicing that walking in business, I think, translates into the same thing with, raising our kids. We
Hmm.
then are going to be a little bit slower when we are teaching them new things. I try to teach my son to golf in the backyard, and um,
That's so cute.
yeah, and I remember last winter we took him out to ski, and we
Hmm.
all like lost our patience on him. We love this kid dearly, but why were we so hard on him? Like, just ski down the mountain, just put the skis on and go down the snow. And he looks up at us and he's like, I'm just having sticks on my feet for the first time. We're
That's
all
incredible.
oh my gosh. And we feel terrible, but it's like, why do we lose our patience with our kids when they're learning things for the first time? This is their first couple years on earth. And so
Right?
yeah, so I think it translates into motherhood really beautifully. And also other things, golf is one of my biggest hobbies. It's something that I love
Cool.
pushing myself in that's outside of work and constantly like getting better, but golf takes an immense amount of patience. And so there is also that learning how to walk in golf when you're golfing. And literally we started walking the courses a few weeks ago instead of getting a cart too, because you enjoy the ride even more. I mean, yeah, you are walking miles and miles, but enjoying just the sunshine and the birds chirping, it allows you to be even more present.
That's really, first of all, I was like, wait, it's more fun without the cart. The cart is my favorite part, but I absolutely get what you're saying that like, take it all in, take the whole experience. And then it's not just how far did I drive the ball or did I sink the putt? It's like, okay, did I actually walk? Did I see the sunshine? Did I see the beautiful scenery? Also, every single parent loses their patience with their children, especially on the ski slope, because we all die inside just trying to get the boots on.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
It's the worst, and they're being stuffed. But like, I think about your son being like, this is the first time with sticks on my feet. And then I think about people who are doing something new in their life. Like, we need to give ourselves the grace to be like, this is the first time I've opened a business. This is the first time that I've tried dating. This is the first time that I have, I don't know, tried this new type of work or whatever, or this new health program or whatever it may be. And we just feel like we should be experts at it from the jump, and we
yeah,
want to be so dearly, but we forget it is the process.
yeah, yeah, totally.
And like, one of the things that I'm learning, especially through entrepreneurship, is that like, I feel like I've like rewritten my story, right? I've kind of rebuilt my life. I'm doing the thing. I've never been happier and I've never been more peaceful. But one of my newer realizations is like, just because I've rewritten it and I'm living life by new design and it feels so good, doesn't mean it still doesn't come with new chapters. And
Mhm,
like you said, we get to this point where we're pushing, pushing, pushing. We're trying to go faster. We're trying to go harder. We're trying so hard to make it happen. That
mhm.
is usually a cue for me where I'm like, it is probably time for just a new chapter. That
Yeah,
doesn't mean scrapping the whole thing, it just means turning the page.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So now that you are sort of walking through life, how does it feel? Tell us about the business and how it feels to run the business and like what you're so excited for people to experience. I mean, I know I talked about the business in the top of the show, but like from
Mhm.
this place of peace and just comfort, tell us all about the business.
Yeah. So we are a DIY project bar where customers can choose from a menu of projects, from jewelry making to leather work, woodworking, and even concrete pouring. And what's cool is that there's a project for everyone. So
Yeah.
you go with a friend, you can make a pair of earrings and your friend can stitch a real leather wallet. And so we love that you're going home with something that you actually want to keep and you're proud of and you love. And also, you didn't all have to like make the same thing. You know, my first business was a paint and sip, which was always really fun. And still, they are so fun. But everybody paints the same canvas. And my idea was to create a space where it operates like a restaurant and you have a server who's a crafty person. And that server, you know, helps out with the projects along the way, but everybody gets to make something different. And then there's a full bar as well. And I think what I'm most excited about in the next phase, when I do find a second location, which hopefully I am getting pretty close, I can't say anything yet, but in the next few months, hopefully I can announce a second location. Is one thing that I really want to expand upon is kids' birthday parties. And I think that
Ooh.
um, with kids, you know, we we oftentimes have you know, they have art class and then they'll come home and they might draw and paint, but when are they actually making something new that's like an item, like jewelry making? And kids can fall in love with a specific craft, like jewelry making, and then end up buying kits and learning how to make it at home, and then it becomes a full-blown hobby. And so I've loved seeing that a few times happen. And now I would love to have a kid's birthday party sort of package where parents can also socialize during the parties, because you know every kid's birthday party has like a different vibe. Maybe you know
Totally.
some of the parents and you're hanging out and having a few mimosas. Maybe you've never met any of the parents and you're standing in the corner like, this is anxiety that I had at prom. Why do I feel the same
Totally.
anxiety? Like, yeah. And so I also want you know, a kids party experience where the parents are sort of having a blast at the bar too, having like buckets of mimosas or whatever, and then the kids are making projects with our employees. So that's for sure going to be something that we expand upon in the next location.
That sounds like a dream come true. I would also like to have my birthday party there.
Yeah,
I would like to coordinate an adult birthday party. Having cocktails with my friends, making crafts is my Super Bowl. I love the concept so much, and I cannot wait to come up to Columbus and visit.
yeah, yeah. You totally have to visit soon.
So I think, one of this has been, and I've said this several times, but I genuinely mean it. This has been an incredible conversation. I think so often we see women thriving and we just quickly detach from that story and it's like, well, I'll never get there. And we don't ever really think about the human, like you were saying with the sharks. You're like, I see the wrinkles in their clothes and, the marks on their skin. And
Mhm.
we forget that everyone is human, living a very human experience, especially in the world of social and TV where everything is cut and edited and produced, that like we do have these beautifully messy journeys. I like to claim it as like the perpetual messy middle. And what I've learned and what you have so beautifully articulated is that it's how you show up in the messy middle that really like truly changes how you live your life and the joy that you're able to find and like how you get to define your own success. I've had this recent realization too, where like if I'm standing and reflecting and I'm like, man, this looks like nothing that anybody else would do, I'm like, oh, I'm in the right place because I've designed it just for me, and like, and it feels good to no longer detach from the anxiety of like, well, no one else is doing it this way. That means that you're really truly doing it your way.
Yeah,
I
uh,
yeah, and I really appreciate your perspective on slowing up and making decisions based on how does it make you feel, knowing yes, of course you have goals and dreams, but like having the ability to slow up and to recognize how it feels in your body. If you are waking up at 3 a.m., just like we said at the top of the show,
mhm.
then maybe your body is screaming, this is not for me, please stop forcing us to go here.
Right, right,
Yeah.
totally. And sometimes it feels good. I mean, before leading up to Shark Tank, I for sure was waking up at 3 a.m., but it was like
Yeah,
a let's go kind of
that.
thing.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
adrenaline, like that was a good kind of feeling. And so, yeah, it's totally listening to does this feel good or does it feel bad? You know?
Yeah, that's a great point because we are going to have to sign up for hard stuff all the time, right? Like that is just part of life. But are you able to be energized about it and be like, let's go do this
Yeah.
versus like the constant dread? And like, if you are dreading, why are you dreading? And kind of
Right.
checking in that way.
Yeah, totally.
Mm.
Yeah.
Megan, this has been absolutely incredible. If people love your content and want to engage with your business, how can we find you?
Yes, the business website is makerssocial.com. And we are, of course, on all of the social medias. If you just search Makers Social, and I am Megan Pando.
Awesome. Megan, thank you so much for your wisdom. I'm so proud of all the things that you have done. And I just so genuinely appreciate your honesty. I know that you have definitely changed lives today and giving people the permission to slow up and check in with how they feel. And most importantly, go back to bed.
Thanks.
uh,
I appreciate all that you do and sharing people's stories too, and just inspiring women and the next generation too. Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much for having me.
It is truly an honor. I'm the luckiest person to be able to talk to amazing women like you every week. You guys, please share this episode. If you are local to Ohio, head up to Columbus and go check out Maker Social. It sounds like an absolute blast, and I certainly can't wait to get there. And thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll catch you next time.